All right. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. Thanks for joining the Power Platform and Dynamics 365 technical update briefing for January here. We're glad to have you. My name is Ryan Anderson. I'm a senior cloud solution architect at Microsoft and focus on Power Platform and Dynamics 365. I'll be covering the Dynamics 365 CE topics today, as well as Power Platform. And then we also have Tom Stumpf, who is a principal cloud solution architect, and he'll be covering the Dynamics 365 finance and operations topics for today. The call is being recorded, and the recording will be available after the call. We'll also have the slide deck available. I have not been able to upload the deck quite yet, but I will get that uploaded after the call here, and you'll be able to download that from the blog, and we'll put the link in there where you'll be able to find that. If you have questions, feel free to ask those through the chat. All attendees will be on mute throughout the call here today, but if you have questions, feel free to use the chat and we will answer those as we can and as time permits. So with that, let's jump right into the content. And as usual, we'll start today with our featured news. So a couple of things here to mention. The first one is around how Microsoft Dynamics 365 and Power Platform can help you do more with less. So there's a few different areas here to take a look at, and this kind of has to go along with the Wave 2 release of 2022. But in general, Dynamics 365 and Power Platform can help lower your total cost of ownership. With Power Platform, organizations can accelerate innovation and save up to 80% compared to other low-code development platforms. Also, reducing cost while improving efficiency. On a unified business cloud, Dynamics 365 unifies customers and business data, relationships, and workflow in a single cohesive business cloud. And then also empowering employees to drive agility and innovation. So unifying data and using AI for proactive insights, boosting collaboration, such as a sales team can close deals faster by understanding signals from a marketing department. And then also democratizing the cloud scale innovation. So Power Platform enables everyone from pro developers to citizen developers to create digital solutions to solve problems. So take a look at that article there to get more information around Dynamics 365 and Power Platform. Next up, wanted to mention that Microsoft and PMI are announcing certifications for university students to drive employability. So the University Hub teaches students how to solve a wide range of business problems with low code, one of the fastest growing technologies in the job landscape today. The Power Platform University Hub will provide students with an integrated curriculum focused on the power of using low-code platforms to accelerate digital transformation. And students in the program are granted access to a learning journey that includes more than a dozen courses. So if you are involved with the university or know of students, make sure to take a look at this, and you can take a look at the certification process for Microsoft Power Platform that's available for university students. All right, moving on. Let's jump into some service updates. I think we've mentioned this one before, the new release planner. This is still in preview. This is an interactive experience for planning adoption of the latest Power Platform and Dynamics 365 features. So you can take a look at that and see which features are coming down the pipe, add features to your own release plan, and various other interactive features there. So take a look at that, and you can track the features coming in Dynamics and Power Platform. The deprecations and retirements, wanted to cover a few of these. Again, as far as the terminology there, deprecation, if something is deprecated, that means that it's announced that somewhere down the road that functionality or feature will be going away, although it's not quite yet. A retirement is actually when that feature will be removed or going away and no longer available. So back in October, we had the Dynamics 365 legacy connector deprecation. Also had deprecation around SLA items in the web client for customer service. And in November, we originally it was announced that the OData version 2 service was going to be retired in November. That actually got moved to April, so that's coming with the 2023 Wave 1 release, and so that will be retired in April. So if you're still using the OData version 2 service, make sure that you are taking a look at documentation and moving off of that, because that will be retired come April. Also, back in November, we had the data export service, which was retired, replaced with the Azure Synapse link for Dataverse. There are extensions potentially available for that, but at this point, if you don't have an extension, you should be off of data export service. And one more coming up in March or maybe April in that one. There are some model-driven app controls that are deprecated. So take a look at the documentation there. If you're using those controls on your model-driven apps and on your forms, you'll want to start moving away from those in your development process. And as usual, use the link there to go to the important changes article, and that will be where all the latest information on deprecations and retirements are. Some of that stuff changes over time, so make sure you get the latest information through that article. Okay, moving on. So understanding updates here a little bit. In general, Microsoft Power Platform and Dynamics 365 has 2 wave releases per year. Um, Typically Wave 1 in April and Wave 2 in October, and those cover the features that are being updated or released across multiple months. Now, just yesterday, the release plans became available for the 2023 release Wave 1. So that is the release plans for that are out there now, and also the dates moving forward for the 2023 release Wave 1 are available out there as well, as far as when it'll be available for testing, when the GA dates are, some of that kind of stuff. So in upcoming update briefings, we'll be talking more about the stuff that's coming in 2023 release Wave 1. But for now, just know that the release plans are out there and some of the dates you can start looking at. And as usual, you can go see the different dates as far as when that'll be GA in your environment. It lists out the different regions, some of those type of things. Also, all the features and all that good stuff. So you can start taking a look at that now. We're still technically within the Wave 2 release of 2022, and so there are other features that are still getting rolled out from that between. That covers October to April of this year, so there's still some features that are coming with the Wave 2 of 2022 as well. Okay, moving forward, Microsoft Dataverse service updates. These are typically rolled out weekly. And get rolled out based on the region that your environment is in. So you can see on the slide here, we have stations 1 through 6, and those stations are then correspond to the different regions where the environments are located. And so the updates get rolled out depending on those regions. So we have that first release, which is station 1, which always gets the updates first, and then it rolls down from there. And this is the same with the wave updates as well. But you can see here that there's depending on which region you're in, you may have a slightly different version, and you can always see that by going into your app and into the browser and just going to the about page and seeing which version you have. But just know that that as these updates are rolled out, they do it by station, so it might differ depending on which region your environment is in. Okay. On the app side, the D365 apps also have separate service updates, so be aware of that. Those can vary as far as timing goes, but really just depends on which app you're using there. So if you're using like the Sales Hub or Customer Service Hub, even Field Service and Marketing, those different apps can have different updates that are specific to them as well. So you can follow along on the various articles there, depending on which app you're using. There's a few other updates on the Power Platform side, things that can come at different times, such as in Power Apps. The Power App Studio or the Maker Portal. Those can have different updates at different times. Power Automate, both the like the web version and also desktop, have different updates that are available. Same thing with the Power Apps portals or pages, and then Power BI as well. So depending on which areas you're using, you can click in there and see what updates are available. And then lastly, for those using the D365 on-prem, there's continuous updates for that. Those are typically coming out on a monthly basis. So the latest one there would be in January here now. So there's a January update for the on-prem versions, both 9.0 and 9.1 of D365. All right, and I will turn it over to Tom to cover the finance ops side.
All right. Thank you, Ryan. Um, we'll start off by looking at service updates for the finance and operations apps. The most recent generally available version is 10.0.31, which released last week, January 13th. And the 10.0.32 preview version is not quite available yet. That should be available on January 30th. That's come January 30th, you should be able to find that in the shared asset library within Lifecycle Services, and you can start looking at that preview version. So just a kind of a reminder here, from a service update perspective, each customer can be up to 3 versions behind, and auto updates will always use the newest version. So throughout the year, we provide 7 service updates, and at least 2 of those, based on the being able to be 3 versions behind, at least 2 of those must be applied per year. When it comes to quality updates, those come out about weekly, and one quality update per month is selected as a proactive quality update, and that's a new process for finance and operations customers that I'll talk about here on the next slide. But just from a quality update perspective, there are new updates being made available about weekly for you to consume with hot fixes and things like that. So if you want some more documentation on timelines and other details around service updates, there's a couple of links at the bottom of the slide. Okay, we'll move on and we'll talk a little bit more about proactive quality updates. So proactive quality updates, as I said, they're a relatively new topic for finance and operations customers. In fact, the very first proactive quality updates started flowing to production environments just last week for a limited number of regions. Starting in February, customers in all regions will start receiving these monthly updates, with the exception of DoD, Government Community Cloud, and China. Finance and operations customers running version 10.0.30 are currently in scope for these updates. If you're running a version older than 10.0.30, your production environment will not be receiving an automatic quality update. You can learn more about the update process and what you should expect by checking out the link at the bottom of the slide. All right. And that should do it. Oh, I was going to say maybe just one other quick thing. There's no slide for um, deprecations, as there are no net new ones that we haven't talked about yet. So nothing to worry about there on the finance and operations side coming soon. And I'll hand it back over to Ryan to talk about some product updates.
All right, thanks, Tom. So let's cover some product updates for Power Platform and the CE apps. So the first, there's a couple of slides here that reference a couple of different articles around protecting data with Dataverse. The part one of that series is around security from external threats, and then part two is security from internal threats. So would definitely recommend reading through these. They provide some good information. This first one, like I mentioned, is kind of focused more on external threats. So how can I protect my data from unapproved access? In general, Dataverse handles authentication with Azure Active Directory to allow for conditional access and multi-factor authentication. Um, the conditional access helps to secure where users can sign into Dataverse environments and what devices they can use. Also, encryption of data, both at rest and in transit, also preserves that confidentiality. And then kind of the second part of that is how can I quickly identify any threats or suspicious activity in the system? Um, so Dataverse auditing provides ways for system admins to quickly set up audit tracking for their environment. So again, would definitely recommend just reading through that. A lot of good information there on security overall. And then, like I mentioned, the second part of that is really security from internal threats. Um, and so, some of the questions there, how can I minimize user access to sensitive data in my applications? So one of the things there is that Microsoft Purview's data classification allows you to protect your data based on data sensitivity and classification, and then prevent sensitive data from falling into the wrong hands. So IT professionals and admins can designate containers, which are database environments, and folders, which are the data entities with data sensitivity that can define the boundaries for that data in the organization. And then also, how can I ensure users have the right privileges necessary to access, Dataverse to get their job done? Dataverse has those role-based security groups to offer a collection of privileges. They can be associated with users, they can be associated with Dataverse teams, and even with business units. And then lastly is how can I make sure I don't have the ability, our users don't have the ability to intentionally leak or allow others to easily access sensitive information. So data loss prevention policies are one way to do that. You can create your DLP policies that can act as kind of guardrails to help prevent users from unintentionally exposing organizational data. So a lot of good information there. Again, I definitely recommend reading through those for more security information. Okay, up next is around Power Platform build tools and Azure DevOps. So there's been a lot of requests to clarify best practices for using Power Platform build tools for Azure DevOps. And this is more information that we're sharing around that. Um, so you can use username and password versus uh, our the article. The first part of it is around username and password versus service principal. And so when using Azure DevOps, the Power Platform build tools provide you options to either create service connections um, with username and password, or using service principals. We recommend that you use service principals instead of user and passwords. There's nothing wrong with the user name and password. It's just that when you have multi-factor authentication enabled, it could break your pipeline. So take a look at that. Also, solution tasks. Most of the tasks available that are focused on solutions. And since solutions are what you use for any ALM objectives in Power Platform, when you want to move applications from like dev to test to production, you should always ensure that your applications, cloud flows, and bots are all in a solution. And then finally, adding a solution component. When importing a solution, if there are other required components that need to be added, then you can list those specific components out. Um, and when importing, all those listed components will then be added. This will increase the size of the solution as a lot of dependents will be pulled in. But this is the same capability in the Maker UI as well, where you can add those required objects. So some updates and different features there from the Power Platform build tools. Some more developer tools updates here. There's some additional features added. There are assigning support for managed identities in DevOps, assigning groups to environments, support for Power Platform pipelines, which we'll talk about a little bit more, and then also virtual agents. So uh, lots of investment and new features coming kind of on these developer tools to help automate the overall ALM process. Okay, so let's talk specifically about some of the Power Apps features. This next slide is really just a list of kind of what is in Release Wave 2 for 2022. And like I mentioned before, Release Wave 1 for 2023 has the release plans there been announced too. But there are still some of these features that are in the Release Wave 2. Many of these were turned on back in October when it was rolled out, but some of these are still coming either in a public preview fashion or general availability in February, March. So all the dates are there, so you can take a look at those features as well as looking at the new 2023 Wave 1 features. All right, next up, there's another great article on security in Microsoft Dataverse. This kind of goes along with the other ones that we covered, talking about building security in Dataverse, building secure hybrid environments. So take a look at that article as well, in conjunction with the others that I talked about earlier. A little more on Power Platform dev tools. Again, more features and functionality being added here. The model builder, we're bringing the ability to generate C# classes for Dataverse APIs and tables directly from the Power Platform command line interface. And for new developers who want to build applications with Dataverse tables, you can do that now. So definitely take a look at this. Some of the additional features like solution packing, unpacking, and syncing, and then providing the runtime settings for package deploying. So just more features being enabled there on the dev tool side. A few new things on Power Apps. Security in Microsoft Dataverse resources has been enhanced. Also on the Maker productivity side, tables now support configuring messaging and also individual publishing. So that's kind of nice. There's an updated learning page. There's an improvement to the SharePoint virtual tables. You can multi-select choice fields and Boolean fields are now available. Also, customizing or creating new views and forms on the user table are now available. So that's been a feature that's been requested for a while now. And then also custom multi-table lookups can now support virtual tables. So you can add in virtual tables to if you're creating lookups that include multi-tables. And then also a couple things on the end user productivity side. If you're using mobile apps, you can now have locked tabs at the top of the forms, so you don't lose the tab, and you can switch back and forth whether or not you're scrolling up and down. And then also, if you're using the tablet apps, there's an optimized command bar there as well. So a few new things there on the Power App side. Next up is delegating the mailbox approval process. So again, this is a request that's been a long time coming. If you're not familiar, in order to enable or approve mailboxes, previously you had to have a role with either global or Exchange admin rights. This announcement is that there is now a new security role named Delegated Mailbox Approver. And so if a user has that role, they'll be able to approve those mailboxes in Dynamics or Power Apps without having to be a global or Exchange admin. So if you're familiar with that one, that's a great feature. Not having to chase down someone with the global or Exchange admin rights every time you have to approve mailbox should be a huge improvement there. So new security role that allows for that. Okay, and then this one talks about the new Power Platform pipelines. So pipelines aim to uh, democratize ALM for Power Platform and Dynamics 365 customers by bringing deployment automation capabilities into managed environments in a manner that's more approachable for all makers, admins, and developers. So when makers export and import solutions from development environments to production environments manually, IT loses visibility and control over those apps. So some customers use like pro dev and IT tools like DevOps and GitHub Actions to automate the ALM process. And those are great, but those tools aren't really meant for citizen developers and often rely on like a DevOps team to drive the implementation and oversee the process. So these Power Platform pipelines, their aim is to kind of bridge that gap in a manner that's simpler, faster, and more and cost effective to set up and maintain. So the idea here is that the citizen developer can be more involved in the entire ALM process with Power Platform pipelines. So definitely take a look at this and see if it fits into your ALM process. Hopefully it simplifies that. Okay, a few things on Power Automate. First one here is just kind of back to some of the new and planned features for Release Wave 2. A number of those still coming here in January, February, and March. So take a look at those. Yeah, a couple different slides. The second one is the desktop flows, the features that are specific to desktop. And then speaking of desktop, there is a December 22 update for Power Automate for desktop. One of the new features there is selector parsing is now available. The selector parser is applied to selectors of like UI elements, and that provides syntax and error highlighting so that the elements and attributes can be clearly distinguished, and any editing, any erroneous editing can be easily identified. Also, Edge and Chrome extensions for browser automation are now migrated to Manifest v3. The Power Automate browser extensions for both those browsers have been migrated to Manifest version 3. So a couple updates there in the December update. All right, one other topic here on the Power Automate side is deeper SAP integration with Power Platform. And so probably about a year and a half ago, Microsoft acquired Clear Software to enhance connectivity to complex systems of record like SAP and Oracle. And so as part of that, this is an announcement of kind of a broad set of new functionality in Power Platform that makes it easier for organizations running a SAP to digitally transform and automate that business process. So there's some pre-built Power Apps for common SAP processes. Some of the things that are planned in 2023 that are coming, kind of the order to cash process, the procure to pay, record to report, and also to make to stock or make to order. So those are some of the things that are coming for that SAP integration, but there's also a new on-prem data gateway, new SAP connector and actions, and then also new logic apps functions. So definitely if you're using SAP in your environment, I would suggest taking a look at that. All right, a little bit on the Power BI side. Again, here's some of the features from the Wave 2 release. So if you're using Power BI, take a look at those. A couple different slides there. Some new functionality in Power BI. One is save a copy of a report and also collapsing the navigation pane in an organizational app. So Based on feedback, we decided to bring back the feature in the org app that allowed you to save copies of the report. So app consumers who have build permissions can now save copies of the reports to their My Workspace from the app. And then also, app authors can now make the default to collapse the app navigation for their app consumers. So this allows for uh, more space on the screen, especially in full screen mode. So you can remove the navigation pane to see the report or app a little bit better. Okay, a couple more things. Announcing support for paginated reports in Power BI Pro. So we're announcing these reports in Power BI Pro. That you have the flexibility to create and consume interactive reports as well as paginated reports using Power BI Pro. The new capability will be rolled out gradually over the coming weeks and should be available in all regions by the end of, this should be available now actually by the end of last calendar year. So that should be available to you. A little more on Power BI, migrating your experience from Azure Analysis Services to Power BI. So this allows for this is a migration tool. It's easy to use solution for enabling the migration of models from the AAS servers to workspaces in Power BI Premium. So customers can migrate data sets quickly, as well as utilize server redirection capabilities to automatically redirect client tool connections from an existing AAS server to a data set residing on Power BI Premium. So some migration help there if you're migrating from AAS to Power BI Premium. And then lastly here on the Power BI side, just some updates to the on-prem gateway. So if you're using those, take a look at those updates. Okay. Actually, I lied. There's a couple more here on Power BI. More features. So subscribing to a report with the filters applied. So subscriptions are a great way to stay on top of reports that go right to your inbox. And with this update to subscriptions, you can create a subscription to view the Power BI report with those filters applied to it. So you don't have to go in and open the report and then apply your own filters each different time. The subscription will include those filters, which should save you some time. Next up is dataset refresh cancellation. It's available now in Power BI Premium. So you can cancel an in-progress dataset refresh in Power BI Premium, Power BI Premium per user, and Power BI Embedded. So previously it required the refresh operation to be triggered by an API, but now users can cancel that ongoing scheduled or on-demand refresh just using a button in the UI. And then lastly, on Power BI, this is an announcement around simplifying capacity management with unified cores. So uh, we're announcing a platform update to simplify the way customers manage Power BI premium capacities. And so starting back in December, this change will be rolled out. So unification of these concepts addresses the feedback we've heard from customers that misinterpret the concepts of customer managed vCores with Microsoft managed vCores. So this change will simplify the model used by customers to both manage capacities and rationalize usage metrics against capacity sizing decisions. So if you're using that within Power BI, I would definitely recommend taking a look at that as those changes have been started to roll out already. All right, a little bit on Power Virtual Agents. Again, a list of the Release Wave 2 features. Also announcing that in public preview now, the Power Virtual Agents has a new advanced authoring canvas, and it unifies the sophistication of Microsoft Azure Bot Framework Composer's Pro Code capabilities with the simplicity of the Power Virtual Agents low code platform. So it makes it easier for professional developers and subject matter experts to collaboratively build a bot in one unified Microsoft bot building studio. So take a look at that new authoring canvas, which is in preview now. Also, some process advisor templates. This is a feature of Power Automate actually that allows you to gain a better understanding of your business processes so you can optimize them. The process advisor offers task mining and process mining capabilities to do this. So some of the new things compared to the previous template, the process advisor offers a dialogue map of how conversations have flown between topics, redirects, and other outcomes. And it focuses on activities that can be easily isolated versus the previous template that focused on individual truncated user and bot text messages. Also, the new template also comes with performance improvements, allowing it to run on large volumes of conversation transcripts. And so some of the available metrics now in the Process Advisor are triggered topics, redirects, events when no topic is identified, confirmed success or failure, CSAT scores, and also the outcome of the session. All right, next up, the Center of Excellence Starter Kit now has more functionality around Power Virtual Agents. So if you're not familiar with the Center of Excellence Starter Kit, this is a solution you can apply to your Power Platform environment. That helps you with the overall management of your environment. And so with this update, Power Virtual Agents are also available in there to help govern, monitor, and manage those things. So if you're already using the COE Starter Kit, take a look. You can add your Power Virtual Agents information in there. If you're not using it, I would suggest taking a look at it. Can definitely help you manage the overall environment. Next up is an announcement around signing up for a developer plan for Power Virtual Agents. So you want to be able to try out Power Virtual Agents before buying it. Well, now you can do that with the Microsoft D365 developer plan, Power Apps developer plan, and that Power Virtual Agents trial. So if you want to take a look at PVA before you move forward with it, use that trial and do some testing to see if it meets your needs. Also, this is just kind of a list of some of the some community resources for you if you're using PVA. Definitely take a look at that. It's kind of some best practices for the new advanced authoring canvas. All right, so that takes us to on the Dataverse and Dynamics 365 apps. Mostly here, we just have some of the Wave 2 release information. So take a look at those. There have been some things updated, some dates changed, when things will be available. So depending on which area of Dynamics you're using, take a look at those. I know one of the ones that is interesting to me is the long-term data retention. That is scheduled for public preview in March. So I think that could be interesting for a lot of customers. All right, Tom, back over to you.
All right. Thank you, Ryan. Moving on to finance and operations apps, we'll start off with highlighting an upcoming feature with finance. So a finance feature that is coming soon is actually one of the most voted up ideas on the ideas portal, and it's an enhancement to the bank reconciliation report. And so that's what's being delivered in this specific feature. Customers will now have an improved layout with additional information available to them to help make that reconciliation process a bit smoother. And this feature is targeted for February. So just as another good example of how either contributing ideas to the ideas portal or voting on ideas within the portal actually does influence the features that are coming. So next, I'm going to highlight a couple features in supply chain management that are coming soon. And the first one for supply chain, we have a new dashboard coming soon to help customers assess the risk of their supply chain disruptions. The dashboard helps materials managers understand the risk of encountering sourcing shortages and delays, enabling businesses to proactively balance cost and resilience factors as they optimize their supply chains. So this is currently targeted for January, but has not quite been delivered just yet, but looking forward to that one as well. Okay. The next supply chain feature that is coming soon is in the area of planning optimization. So planning optimization is adding support for multi-vendor sourcing by allowing you to create vendor sourcing ratios that get applied during the master planning process. For example, you can set a rule to purchase 70% of materials from one vendor and 30% from another. This feature has been delivered in public preview and is targeted for a February release for general availability. In commerce, there is a feature that we want to talk about here. We're adding the ability to create purchase orders from the point of sale device, eliminating the need to log into the commerce headquarters to perform that task, making the point of sale app the single app for store employees to handle the end-to-end purchase order business process. That is a big improvement over forcing users to log into the headquarters app to perform that task. So that is coming in the February timeframe. Okay. For project operations, there's a new feature coming, and it is the ability to import Microsoft project files to create projects, tasks, and task dependencies. And this is just providing some more flexibility in how you populate your projects. So this feature is currently targeted for the March timeframe. Okay. And that is just a quick look at some of the upcoming features in the finance and operations area. And then I'll hand it back over to Ryan.
All right, thanks, Tom. So we wanted to highlight a few of the customer stories that have been published recently. And these are where companies are using the Power Platform Dynamics 365 apps for various things. And so there were a few published recently we wanted to highlight. The first one is a hospice care provider that uses Power Platform and processes 2 million patient visits to date with the Power Platform. So you can take a look at that one. Also, in the banking industry, Rabobank streamlines complex processes from 3 weeks to 3 minutes using the Power Platform. So just another highlight of how this can you can do more with less with the Power Platform in this situation. Coca-Cola United automates over 50,000 orders in complex SAP invoicing process with the Power Platform. So again, just another example of efficiently processing a large amount of data in a shorter amount of time. And then lastly, Equinor embraces Power Platform to increase process efficiency while cutting costs. So you can take a look at any or all of those to get some more ideas on how other customers are using the Power Platform. Okay, jump into our learning corner. So this is just kind of a list of different videos, articles, different things where you can learn more about Power Platform and Dynamics 365. The first one is specific to Microsoft Power BI. And this is the Power BI community that has curated some of the webinars and videos. So take a look at that if you're using Power BI. Our Power Cat team does a great job in putting together YouTube videos around various areas of the Power Platform. So this is a list of some of the latest and greatest there. Next up is some learning sessions and demos from our learning site around Power Platform. So a lot of good topics there to take a look at. The Center of Excellence Starter Kit, I mentioned this earlier when we were talking about the Power Virtual Agents. There's some great instruction videos out there if you're setting up the COE that walk you through that. A few more Dynamics 365 YouTube videos to take a look at. And then also our team hosts and writes content for a blog, both on the Power Platform and CE side, and then also on the F&O side. But these are some of the latest blog posts out there to review. And back over to you, Tom.
All right, great. So I just want to highlight few things that were recently made available here. There's a bunch of new finance and operations sessions that are now available for on-demand viewing. I'll highlight a couple here real quick. There was a session last week on monitoring finance and operations using application insights, and that covered new capabilities, different patterns and scenarios, and then some of your extensibility options related to that. So that's a good session to take a look at if you want to kind of understand what your monitoring and telemetry options are with application insights. And then earlier in the month, there was a session on how invoice capture automates the AP invoice to pay process. So with invoice capture, you can scan invoices as they arrive. OCR then extracts data, and then the system matches invoices with purchase orders and updates your financial records. So if you're interested in that invoice to pay process and how that is being updated, definitely take a look at that session. So those are just two of the recent sessions made available for on-demand viewing. A bunch were done within the last 2 months. So definitely take a look. If you want to check out the full list, use the link at the bottom to check that out. I don't believe there are any currently scheduled that are to be recorded, but a bunch just got finished and published here. So lots of great new content to check out. Okay. And I think that wraps us up.
All right, yeah, well, thanks, Tom, for presenting. Thanks, Madan, for monitoring the chat over there. Thanks, everyone, for joining today. Again, apologize for not having the deck quite ready yet to be posted, but I will get that out on the blog article, which I put a link there in the chat for that. So you can find more information via our blogs. The links are on the screen. And then also you can follow us on Twitter at PFE Dynamics, and you can stay up to date with our latest information there. This has been recorded, so we'll get that published as soon as possible as well. So hope this was valuable to everyone. Thanks again for joining, and we'll see you next time.